episode 8 of Mind Over Emotions, the podcast. First, I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in. While you're tuning in, hit that subscribe button. Like, it's free. Hit the like button, it's super free. I'm super excited about today. I got a good guest, one of my homeboys from bowling again. Another bowler.
Hello, hello.
So, what's your name, man?
I'm Davin Marte. I also go by 7K for my music, so it's another thing that you know me as when we met, you know what I mean? That's pretty much what a lot of people call me, 7, around my friend group, so.
Where does 7 come from?
It's kind of like a funny little thing. So I came up with a name back when I was 13, and I was like really heavy in the Call of Duty gaming things, and it was ironically 7 of us. It was me, my cousin, and like 5 other good friends that I met online, and we were just killers at Modern Warfare 3, especially during those days. And ironically enough, around that time, I was learning in my history class about Rome and the 7 kings of Rome, and I was like, "Hey man, there's 7 of us. We're all kings at this game." Just like cliche little.
Kick your ass.
But no, that's where it stemmed from. And then as I grew older, I adapted this mindset of being a king, but not a king where I'm above all. It's more of a king where, like, follow me and I promise greatness. I promise you'll get out of, like, kind of poverty if you're in it. Because, not to say that I know it all or I know the way to go in life, but, we all make mistakes in a way. But it's just, like, I grew up in a life where, like, I've seen so much that, like, I kind of know where to turn, where not to turn kind of thing. And I may make a mistake, but at the end, we're all going to flourish, especially if you follow me kind of thing. But at the end of the day, what I want to bring about it is make us all kings and queens. It's kind of the mindset now versus back then when I first started it.
I thought about when you say king, it's funny because I seen a podcast one time. I can't remember exactly which podcast it was, but they spoke about how a lot of women refer to each other as queens, and they're like, you can't be how everybody gonna be a queen, but you let every guy touch you. Like, when you think of queens, they only have one king.
One king.
But there's so many different dudes and stuff like that. So it's always, I don't know. I just thought about that. It's kind of like a squirrel moment. But let's take it back to when you were a kid. I know you said that you were from Fort Lauderdale. How was you growing up in Fort Lauderdale?
So I grew up in various parts of Florida. I was born in Plantation, Florida. Fort Lauderdale, for those who are watching, and if you're from Florida, been in Florida, you'll understand that Fort Lauderdale is like this giant city that covers, like, the way I call it, sub-cities. Okay. So for such instance, like you have Coral Springs, Davie, Pembroke Pines, that all falls under Fort Lauderdale. I don't know how it works like that, but it does. But yes, there's an area called Fort Lauderdale, but the only reason why I'm like, I'm from Fort Lauderdale is that's kind of one of the major cities in Florida.
So probably because if you said like your actual hometown, probably
be like, where's that exactly?
What hometown is that?
So my original home. So like I said, I worked in Plantation, but I grew up between Davie and Pembroke Pines, and the reason being for that is because my parents, they're just as human as the rest. They made mistakes, and sometimes we had to move between my grandma's house, which she lived in Davie, and then we were also moving back to Pembroke Pines whenever my parents was able to find a house again to move out of their mom's home kind of thing.
Just out of curiosity, is that where your name came from, David? Since you're from Davie?
Actually, no, it's funny. No one's ever pointed that out. But no, that's not where my name comes from. Actually, my parents didn't name me. My sister named me. My older sister, Amber, shout out. She's like a second mom to me. So the story on where Amber got my name was she grew up watching Rugrats, and that's like one of her favorite childhood TV shows. And somewhere in the credits, there's a name that says Davin or Davin, because my name is spelled D-A-V-I-N. So technically,
that's what I originally called you.
Yeah, Davin. When people call me Davin, I don't really get upset because I grew up with it in school, and I could tell you my name instead of writing it down, and the next day you see me, it's hey Davin, and I'm like, how? But at the end of the day, like, I understand, so it's okay.
It took me a while to kind of understand, because for me, my name is like very controversial, I guess you would say. Like we were talking about off camera, like my name is my dad's name, apostrophe my uncle's name. So it's actually, we let people get away with calling me Kushon, but it's actually, like I told you, it's actually Cashon. So my dad's name is Cass, and then my uncle's name is Sean. So I think the only person who really kind of gets a little irritated is my mom. I don't really care. I mean, I've had people call me Cassine, Cation, it's just so many different And it kind of used to, when I was younger, it kind of frustrated me, but I think like as I got older, it kind of like, just like whatever, man.
Yeah.
And I think now it's so much easier because it's weird now because when people call me Kashawn, it's like I immediately tell Doug on that, you know, because everybody knows me as Herc, you know. So I don't know. Like, some people I let still call me Sean or something like that, but for the most part, I prefer people to call me Herc. So, but don't ask me why. If you want to know why, I'll tell you. But so growing up, I know you said you had a sister, an older sister. Was that your only sibling?
So yeah, growing up originally, and my life was kind of like a roller coaster of like finding out the rest of my siblings. It's kind of weird or funny today looking back at it as an adult. Obviously,
Before you get into that, did you grow up in a two-parent household?
Yeah, my whole life, yeah.
You're a biological father?
Yeah, my biological father and mother. I was blessed on that part. I was saying I grew up with a lot of friends that it was only just mom or just dad, whether if it was biological or not. And I can't tell you how many times my friends like, oh, I wish I had both my parents. And I'm gonna say this now, like, yes, having both my parents was a blessing, but at the same time, their relationship wasn't the best. So parenting or taking care of children for them was kind of a challenge on top of taking care of their relationship. So for them to be parents and husband and wife together was a constant challenge between them growing up. So,
but as a kid, do you think that even though that was a constant challenge, you think that like benefited you?
Yeah, it showed me how relationships work, the good, the evil, the bad, and the greatness, and the success and everything, the pros and cons, all that, and growing up originally, especially like getting into relationships, I was very confused on how a relationship was supposed to be, but today, obviously, I've learned my lessons in many ways, but definitely it was a blessing and a lesson because they definitely taught us how to be strong and how to stay strong, and no matter what type of hard times you're going through, especially when you have kids together, you should always stay together and, take on the challenge that you both committed. You know what I'm saying? And growing up, especially, my sister is not biologically my father. We both have separate fathers.
But I like how you still call her your sister. I see a lot of people, they'd be like, oh, that's my stepsister, or...
Oh, no. We're literally like this, dude. Like, there's nothing separating between me and my older sister and my little sister. Like, I treat my little sister like if she's my daughter.
Okay. So now you expose you have an older sister and
a little sister. In total, I have 5 siblings. Okay. One is biologically not mine, or ours, per se, because we adopted her. My mom's first child was Leah, and she was given up for adoption I've heard numerous stories on why, and I don't know the truth, but that's just what I was told. Yeah, I was told because it was a racial reason, from my grandma and my mom, because she's a mixed child. She's half Jamaican, half Italian, and I don't know the real story.
Okay, so pause real quick. We're going to keep going with that, but I just noticed you said it was a racial thing, but correct me if I'm wrong, you said you're Dominican, Italian, Czech.
Yeah.
So isn't that multi-racial?
So that's what I'm saying. My family's stories growing up was like, it was just, it bounced all over the walls. There was never a solid story that was told. It was, this person said this person said that, this person would say this person would say that, and I would have like 7 different stories, and I just wouldn't know what to believe. So I just kind of grew up with, well, it happened.
Did you ever eventually meet her?
Yeah, I met all my siblings. Actually, I have a photo on my Facebook with literally me, my oldest, second oldest, my blood related, and then Jazzy, who's in. Because my father has, so my mom has, or she had, because one unfortunately did pass away when he was 3 months old. But Leah, Nicholas, Amber, me, Jade. So my mom conceived 5 kids. My dad owns 2. I don't know how else to put it.
He claims 2.
He claims 2. But
possibilities out there.
But she was, for some reason, also given up for adoption, and I don't know why I wasn't. I'm like, I was your first kid, so how come I wasn't the one to be given up, not the second? But I guess the story I was told on that was something to do with my crazy uncle and the threat towards the new baby was more for the safety of her, of giving her up, than keeping her in that household. So
Would you say growing up that you was raised in a household where I don't want to say it, like chastising was prevalent? Meaning like some people grew up like like with me growing up like we were accustomed to if we did something wrong like we were going to be chastised. I mean whether that was being put on punishment, whether that was a spanking, or
something getting taken away.
Yeah, or like back in the day like you're getting a beat, a whooping, Was that prevalent in your home or?
Not with the beatings, I would say. I mean, my parents weren't afraid to pop me here and there, but it was never like malicious, like abusive. I would say like discipline. But what they mainly did to me because they knew that's what would grind my gears more was taking my entertainment away. And I was a very half and half video game / outside kid growing up. I had a very healthy mix of the two. And if you took my console away from me, I would be outside all day. But if you took both away from me, oh man,
you're gonna learn your lesson.
Yeah.
But see, I think that's I know you're not a parent.
No.
But I think even as a parent, I think that's the one thing that's hard as a parent is you can't chastise these kids in the same way. Like,
no.
Like some kids are gonna learn from like you said, taking away things or something like that. But other kids, you can take away everything and they're still gonna be like acting crazy. Some of them you actually have to kind of like pop them or. I think if what's really crazy is I think that nowadays when you pop your child or you spank your child, it's considered abuse or you're beating them or something like that. But back in the day,
it was called discipline.
Yeah, like I never thought that my mom or my grandma or my stepdad or anything like that. I never thought that they were abusive. I just thought,
being disciplined.
Yeah, I was bad, and this is the punishment for it. So when kids they get popped and call CPS or whatever, I'm just like, I'm like, seriously?
Yeah.
I never thought to ever call that. I mean, and I just felt like if I did call, it would be a big issue. You know what I mean? So I never really did that or whatever.
Yeah, I feel you because my mom growing up, she, especially with Jazzy, the youngest, the one that we adopted, there was a lot of moments where she would literally repeat things to the T that I did, and my mom would pop me, discipline me in whatever way, and my mom would just be like, "Oh, you know what? It's okay." Like what? And then my mom had to teach me that lesson. Especially as you grow older as a parent and you have more kids, you start realizing that like you said, you can't chastise or discipline every child the same because they won't learn the same, and every child is different in this fact. So even I had to realize that as a sibling.
And then, okay, so I noticed you told me earlier off camera you spoke about being diagnosed with ADHD. How did that come about?
So my parents always knew that I had some ADD or ADHD growing up, but Florida's health system back then was dog shit. Especially the school systems. The school systems actually were 3 years behind, I think until like 2011 or 2012, somewhere around there. And then that's when all states were kind of in the same section of learning, where 5th grade you're learning algebra, 6th grade you're learning this, that, the third, whatever.
5th grade you're learning algebra?
I love
math, but Jesus, that was early.
When I was in Jersey, yeah, because 3rd grade we ended up moving out of Florida, and then we ended up hitching up to Jersey, and when I got into school in there, in my 4th grade year, we were pre-algebra. 5th grade year, we were learning actual algebra. So yeah, but it wasn't until Jersey 6th grade year where I was actually fully diagnosed, because that's when like the actual anger management started coming out, and like I was getting into fights literally every day. Like I guarantee you, 6th grade year, I probably have more fights than a UFC person. Fighter.
Should have probably went to the UFC.
I begged my parents. No, I would say, I mean, I definitely got my ass beat a couple times, but I would say, in a win-to-loss ratio, I'm definitely like 2.1 on that. You know what I'm saying?
You went back to Call of Duty, you did your KDR, but you did your win-loss,
okay. Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
So, back to the ADHD. So, like again, like how did that like come about? Like, I know you said that the anger management and all that, but did you have to go like see like a therapist or something like that?
My mom didn't believe in medication. I mean, there was a point in time my mom did want to put me in therapy, but my mom was very big for some reason on when it came to certain mental illnesses that you didn't need medication, that it was just all in your head. and such as like ADHD, ADD, and my mom was also bipolar, manic depression. She had also PTSD. She had a bunch of things. Like she had a thick case in her mental illness folder. Like,
Is your mom the Dominican one?
no, my mom's Italian,
Okay.
and my dad's Dominican and Czech.
Because I've heard that a lot of people in Latin culture, they don't like to address mental illness
No, they don't.
because they feel like it makes them shameful. I guess you could
Shameful, weak, not able to take care of themselves or be independent. It's kind of it's to them it's an excuse on making excuses, pretty much, I guess. But yeah, my mom didn't believe in medication or anything, so she helped guide me on to handle my anger and how to look myself in the mirror and understand where I went wrong, what I'm doing wrong, and how to figure out coping mechanisms to when I feel the flare-ups happen, or especially a big thing in my ADHD. And well, I would say it's anxiety really, but it plays a part in the ADHD. When I'm getting mad, my whole body will shake like crazy. Like I'll start looking like this. And
do you consider your ADHD to be a mental illness?
personally, I think it's a trait.
What do you mean a trait?
So there's some countries that don't even consider ADHD, ADD to be a lot of mental illnesses that we consider mental illnesses. They consider them traits, and I forgot what it stands for. You have to look it up there. It's an acronym, I believe. Actually, don't quote me on that, but it's basically saying that like instead of looking at it as a mental illness, it's kind of like helping the person looking at their trait as a more positive outlook. That, for instance, ADHD. How is it a mental illness when my brain thinks faster than the average person?
I never thought about that. But
You
that makes
know?
sense, yeah.
So like, how is that a mental illness? I get it in a perspective, but I at the same time I don't, because just because my brain thinks a little bit faster than per se I'm not saying, I don't know if you have ADHD or not, but in that case it does. And
Even though recently someone asked me, do I have ADHD? Not to change the subject, but just funny because you said that. I literally was getting some feedback on doing the podcast, and someone spoke on that. They asked me, "He's like, do you have ADHD?" I think it's because I kind of squirrel a little bit with the conversation, but it's just because
that would be more ADD.
ADD.
Yeah, because ADHD is
Attention
hyperactive or hyperactive attention or something. It's basically you're hyperactive and your attention span is like lessened. ADD is just that's just squirrel. Like you're having a conversation and you see something move on the corner of your eye and you're like, huh?
Yeah, I guess I would have ADD then, because that's exactly what I responded to them with. Was I was like, sometimes when I'm when the guest is speaking, I be thinking about, it triggers me to think about certain other things, and then I bring that up, and I guess you could call it a squirrel moment. But I always come back, so I don't think it's a problem.
Nah, see, it's more like you literally just like self-distance. You're not self-distance, like you just dissociate for a second, and then you're like, huh? You know what I mean? It's kind of like more and more, but it's more in a frequent setting than I would say here and there.
So you never took medicine though for ADD?
Never took Adderall. Never took. I don't even know the other names for. I know there's a bunch of type of ADHD.
Did you self-medicate at any point?
Yeah, I felt weed especially did help a lot growing up, even though my parents fucking hated it. But they did realize at a certain point that it was keeping me at a calm state. But then there was a point where I was using it as a dependency, where per se to eat, to calm down, to go to sleep, to again calm down. You know what I mean? Like it was very more so on calming down. Like
I think a lot of people use weed as a coping thing. I can attest to that. I did. I spoke on the first episode about how I went through a situation where I was kind of like going downhill, and during that time, I was smoking a lot, especially coming from somebody who really didn't for a long period of time didn't smoke at all. And then I kind of like got on the train of it because I was like, well, I can smoke now. I'm in a state where it's legal, and then I kind of like lost myself in it. I never experienced with any other drug. I kind of went to some of these parties sometimes, and then people would be taking other extracurricular drugs or whatever, and it never crossed my mind to try anything like shrooms or nothing like that. People would do it, and I would like be like, nope, I smoke weed, man. That's it.
Nothing wrong with it.
And but have you ever done anything else?
Yeah, I've done say a little over a handful, a little. I haven't done any of the hard drugs. Let's just say that, like crack, meth, heroin. PCP, blues, any form of pill except for the technical Percocets, because When I was in the kitchen, so I chopped this finger pretty good here. If you kind of tell the difference, I don't know if the camera will catch it, but kind of see like.
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then when I was soaking my finger in iodine to stop the clotting, or to start the clotting, or whatever you call it, and they were like, "Yeah, you want a Percocet?" I was like, "Give it to me," I'm in pain, so and that felt great, but
you better be careful getting these Percocets now.
yeah,
no. Fake Percocets, man.
Yeah, actually, ironically, I had a friend that like he actually got into perks, and then he got a batch of it, and he like it was a whole different him. We didn't know who he was, and it was like, God, bro, what the hell is going on?
So not to dive too deep into the drug thing, just because maybe somebody listening might can relate to it. Do you think that you self-medicated with those other drugs and it became like a problem for you at any point? And if so, how did you get yourself off of it? Did you go to rehab or anything like that? Or?
So I never became addicted to anything I've done. I will say that I do have an addictive personality, but I like to call it a controlled addictive personality because there's certain things that I've tried that I'm like, oh, if I get this in my hands, it's gonna be a fun night. But I realized that about myself, and I've learned to take that step back and be like, no, and tell myself no, and keep that firm. You know what I mean? So. No, I've never really been addicted to anything. I've had my fair share of fun with coke and acid and shrooms. I've done DMT. Hell, I've even helped.
You did what?
DMT.
What's DMT?
I've
never done any of these drugs.
DMT is actually something that you excrete when you die. So when people die, your brain will excrete DMT. I don't know the scientific acronym for DMT, but I know in the community of people who've done it, it's called divine moment of truth. Because when it's kind of like the stories of those who've been risen back, from them passing for, say, 6 minutes, 10 minutes, or however long it was that the person lost, their heart stopped beating. And they say they've seen God, or they've seen their past relatives who have once gone, or things like that. And that's kind of where that comes from, is the DMT. And I can speak highly on that because may my grandma rest in peace. She's been, especially at that moment, she was well over 10 years past. And when I did it, everyone that was around me kind of disappeared. I can feel their energy. I know they're there mentally, but literally physically seeing, they were gone. And the next thing I know, I just hear my grandma's voice saying, I just want you to know I'm proud of you and I've always loved you. And that broke me, and not broke me in a bad way.
I was about to say that I can see where it probably break you down, but it probably when you came back to it, kind of helped you out. It helped you get off this stuff, probably.
I mean,
it give you a little sense of confidence, maybe.
Well, for me, especially when it came to the psychedelic road that I did take at one point, because there was a point I was taking acid every other weekend, and because it was my sister's boyfriend was selling it, and it was just easy access.
I think that's how I've heard so many stories about people they never really wanted to try acid, or I can't remember who told me, but it's kind of irrelevant. But they kind of said the same thing. They're it's more like a drug of convenience, because it was easy to get. Somebody they knew and their family was selling it, so he's like, well, why not try it? And then they tried it and they liked it. So
yeah, I thought it was great. And I mean, for me especially, because I'm spiritual, not religious, and I do respect all religion. If for whatever religion you believe in, we can have a conversation about it, and I'll understand your beliefs as long as you can understand mine. But when it comes to spirituality and psychedelics in itself, there's these, they call it windows and doors that will open up, and especially your pineal gland, your third eye is what we call it. And especially when I first started diving into psychedelics, what really made me continue taking it was I was able to see the evil side of me, and I didn't like it. And it made that, honestly, acid kind of helped me change my life. And I don't recommend that people go and start taking psychedelics to change their life. This was just something that happened, and I was able to see something that I was supposed to see, and I woke up, kind of thing. Instead of allowing it to scare me or make me run away or hide from what I'm actually doing, you know what I mean? Because I was really seeing the narcissistic side of me. I was really understanding that I'm not a good person. I'm treating people horribly. I'm not doing good at my work. I'm not putting 100%. If anything, I was putting 50. And so that really allowed me to take the 180 that I needed to do and, move forward into my life into a better path. So for me, psychedelics was really a good awakening, but I did realize I was doing it too much and I had to slow down. So yeah, that ended up stopping.
Just out of curiosity, what's tell me about a time where you're the worst trip you ever had?
Oh man, DMT. I'll tell you. It's actually pretty funny.
That kind of makes sense. I mean,
DMT is nothing to play with. Don't. That's if that drug ever comes to you, because it's not a drug you look for, and this is for people who've made it and who've done this for many years. Like DMT is not something that you go look for. DMT will come to you, and if it's offered to you, it's your decision whether to take it then or there. And a lot of people take it because it's an experience outside of your own life. And that's why a lot of people take it. They want to experience what it's like to what we call breakthrough, like see the other side of your astral projections or the spirit realm, whatever, whatever you believe in. Some people say they've seen aliens. There's stories that people have lived a whole 6 months of life in a different world. Like it's crazy. You can look up stories.
I was about to say, people probably look at them like they're crazy. Probably like, oh, you need to be in like some kind of institution.
Yeah. But
let me ask you a question. So, when did mental health become like something that you recognize, like it became prevalent to you, like that it was maybe even an issue for you? When did that happen?
I would say it was the psychedelics, honestly, because that, like I said, I realized that it was I was being very evil and I wanted to change, and it wasn't necessarily the psychedelics that made me dive into mental health. It just made me realize like what I was doing, and that's what made me push towards my own mental health.
Before the drugs or anything like that, were you like aware of mental health issues, maybe just in your community or you within yourself?
To be honest, I saw it as an excuse for some people. Like there was a time I resented my mom because she, in a way, she wouldn't make excuses for her mental health, but she would bring it up, and I'd be like, that's not an excuse. It's not an excuse. And then I had to grow up and realize and go through things myself.
That's what I'm asking. So, what did you go through that made you realize like, okay, mental health is serious. Like it's a serious thing. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I would say. It's kind of, I mean, I don't mind sharing it. It's the day that, like, my father attempted suicide, and still to this day hasn't told me. I found out through my sister.
He's a survivor?
Well, yeah, technically. He's only a survivor. I don't mean to laugh on this because it's not a funny subject. He's a very tall man. He tried to hang himself, and he was too tall. So, and I smile. I'm not trying to smile, but like, yeah, it's just like when I hear that from my like.
It's the way you say it.
Yeah. So I apologize. It's not funny.
It's not funny at all.
It's not funny at all. But yeah, he hasn't even spoken to me about that, and I don't blame him because I am his first kid, and he does view me as like a treasured one, and he doesn't want to feel like I'm disappointed in him in any way. So. I understand why he hasn't shared it, but...
Was this like years ago?
Yeah.
So he's doing better now?
Oh, a lot better. Even with the passing of my mother, he's flourishing, and I'm actually proud of him. I really am.
Did he seek therapy at all for that?
He should, but at the moment, no, he's not. But he does. I do make sure I call him and see make sure he's okay and stuff like that. So.
Have you ever experienced like suicidal thoughts, like even as a kid or maybe a teenager or as an adult?
I've attempted once, but looking back at it, it was kind of selfish. Like, I mean, as a lot of people would say, suicide is a selfish thing.
Yeah.
But like, no, it was really selfish. Like, I was going through a lot of mental things, but like, I did it just because out of rage, I guess, and like, I wasn't really thinking clearly. But yeah, I did stand on the top of my balcony and just let myself fall forward. And if it wasn't for my older sister grabbing my pants and just yoking me back down, I probably would have been either critically injured or dead.
Were you on drugs, or you just kind of like just?
Nah, this was before the weed days. This was before any days of touching drugs.
So you just kind of like emotional going through something.
Yeah, and I honestly, those were foggy days. Those are days I probably should try to go to therapy and try to unlock, in a sense, like to help myself be like, what was I going through? What's
your take on therapy? How do you feel about therapy? Would you ever do it?
It's a 50-50. Because I've tried to deal with some therapists, and they, especially one, really turned me away from going to therapy, because there was this one time, like, I actually contacted the therapist, made a deal, or not made a deal, made an appointment, but then my job was like, either you work this day or you're fired, and like, that was literally what happened, and I was like, and so I called the therapist, and was like, I have to reschedule, and like, the therapist was like, well, if you don't want to get your mental health correct, then I don't know how I can help you, and I took that as an attack, and I was like, what the, and so ever since then I was just like, y'all are frauds at the end of the day. Like that's kind of.
I spoke about that as well on my one of the previous episodes of episode 1. I spoke about that. I had this kind of similar. They weren't rude to me. They just kind of like, how you say it? They literally, it was through the VA. I tried to sign up for it. It was a whole bunch of like, back and forth, miscommunication with the appointment scheduling and stuff like that. Then the number just kind of didn't work. So after that point, I just kind of like stopped trying, and that's when I went into the, diving deep into getting high all the time on marijuana. Make that clear right now. I've never done any other drugs besides, marijuana, and I don't consider marijuana to be a drug, but
I don't either, but it definitely is a gateway to other drugs. I will say, because for a lot of people, even me, I was like, man, if I smoke weed, why can't I do this?
Now, I know you said that you did like self-care. Like, what kind of self-care did you do?
I did a lot of meditating, a lot of like re-recognition with myself, in the sense of when I would have bad days, I would come home and I would literally write down on a piece of paper what I did wrong.
Okay.
And I would read over that paper over and over again until I was tired of reading it, basically, and I would embed that in my head so that way when it would happen again,
I back up like second nature almost.
Exactly. So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So do you think that you still battle with mental health issues right now, or? Are you doing a lot better now?
I'm doing a lot better. There's obviously some days where, like, especially with my work, like, especially with what's going on, I'm like, why do I deserve this? Like, I work so hard. I put my heart and effort into what I do. Like, anything I put my hands on, like, bowling, work, or video games, or just, a simple little sketch that I might be, even though I'm not artistic, but just, I'll try my hardest.
Autistic. We're going to get into that in a minute, but go ahead, keep going.
Well, in drawing sense, I know.
Okay.
I'm definitely not artistic in drawing, but I try. And anything I put my hands on, I try to give it 200%. And so when certain things happen, I'm just like, why me? Why me? And so I get into that mindset of like, oh, life hates me, but then I quickly like snap out of it, like, it's just another bad day. Let's just get over it. Move on to the next one.
Okay. So I like to ask this question: what kind of advice would you? How old are you?
I'm 20. Almost forgot. 27.
27. So, what kind of advice would you give to somebody who, in your age bracket, that's kind of going through the same thing? What kind of advice would you give to them if they were? Let's just say right now, somebody was in front of you, and they were suicidal. They're having suicidal thoughts, or just battling, with mental health issues. What kind of advice would you give them right now?
Well, I would like look them. I'll look them like dead in the face, and I really ask them deep questions about like how they feel on life. And because for me, I feel like if someone's having suicidal thoughts, like there's two different type of people who just say it, and those who say it won't do it. You know what I mean? Like 9 out of 10, those who talk about like killing themselves won't do it.
You don't think that they'll do it? They'll probably do it eventually.
Maybe, but in the moment. In the moment, they're not. I wouldn't say strong enough. That's flawed to say, but like what I mean by strong is the heart to actually take your own life. Like not, and if you really think about that, that's such a whoa moment. Like you're about to do this. You know what I mean? Like so, but I mean, in all reality, if I had someone in my age bracket going through that, I mean, actually, I do. I won't say his name out of respect, but I tell him every day that you're worth more than you think, and you got to see the better light of things. And sometimes you can lead the horse to water, you can't make them drink, but you can try to at least show them the clear water and show them the reflection that they're worth more, that this is a beautiful life to have, and that every day is a blessing to wake up and everything like that. And no matter what you're going through, especially what I like to say to people, really, my grandma used to tell me this: those who go through a great struggle see a better horizon. So, it's...
Say that again for the camera. Say that. I like that.
Those who go through a great struggle see a better horizon. And to kind of Leighton's term, it's just, no matter what you're going through, no matter how harsh, how bad, evil, or unfair it may seem, if you can pursue and get through it, in the end, you're going to see everything come back to you, whether if it's a better job opportunity, a better relationship, a better health mindset that you end up gaining one day, just waking up feeling refreshed, wanting to do better, and you just gain that confidence, or just simply in my case where I woke up one day and I had the opportunity to get an apartment, to get my car, and to be able to get forward in life and actually do these things because of a job that I was able to gain. And before getting that job, I had a job that was only paying me $23,000 a year, and now I have a job that's paying me $80,000 to $100,000 a year. You know, so you just gotta, thank you. You just gotta strive through the moment, and I promise you, at the end, you're gonna, especially if you stay strong, you stay health mindset, you stay keep that positivity, don't ensue that negativity. You're gonna see the greatness come out. You know, especially out of yourself and what comes to you.
Okay. Do you think, because you're not single, right?
No, I'm not single.
Do you think that having a strong, positive woman on your side helps you?
Oh, 100%. The woman I have today, like I don't care what she thinks about herself. Sometimes she's like, I'm not pretty on this. I don't care if you're not a dime at the end of the day. It's what you bring to the table in the sense of us. You know, like how do you treat me and how do you respect me? How do you appreciate me and vice versa? How do I appreciate you? How do I respect you? And especially that you guys can be a team together supporting each other. Yeah, that's tenfold like the best thing to have, because before her I was dealing with the most narcissistic woman that I probably ever dealt with in my life, and she really to this day kind of traumatized me. Like there's certain things even within my current relationship where my girl will say something a certain way that my past relationship did, and I'm just like, huh? And like what? And then I start like freaking out because now, an argument's about to break out, shit's about to start flying, this, that, and the third. But it's not like that because I'm only reflecting instead of, you know.
You know, what I find odd is that you don't really hear men saying too much that I don't need a woman. You know,
That's a lie if they say that. Though.
but you don't really hear that. You hear a lot of women saying I don't need a man. But I think us men, when we really become men, I think that we realize that we thrive better and we're better mentally, emotionally, when we have a strong woman by our side. You know,
I do agree.
and I think that women sometimes they get caught up in the independency. And I would love to speak to some women sometimes. If you guys ever want to come on the podcast and talk about this, I always wonder why they're so. I understand like the need to feel independent, but I don't understand the need to feel so independent that you think that you don't need a man, because I think that a man grounds out a woman, and a woman definitely grounds out a man. Like it kind of makes you feel like you take a step back, and it makes you. I know for me, like having a solid woman on my side, I feel even if everything else in life is not going well, it builds my confidence up. It makes you feel solidified inside, and then that portrays outwardly.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I think that sometimes women, they kind of like dig a hole for themselves with that whole independency. But I need to get a woman on here so we can talk about it. I don't want to speak for them. I'm really more or less curious because I've had these conversations with people many times, and it's just ironic that you say that. You speak so highly of how she's made your life better. And I think that as men, I think we kind of acknowledge that, even though sometimes we want to be alpha.
Yeah.
And act like we are alpha. You should be, but and very masculine. But I think that we, at the same time, we understand that we still need that feminine woman to kind of like ground us out and make us become better men.
It's kind of like a chain, you know what I mean? Chain on a dog. I don't mean that literally, like we're some dogs, but like that's my reference between me and my girl, because there's points where like we're in public and. Like last time I went bowling, like man, I got heated. Like the lane courtesy, stupid thing. Like these people were just edging into our lane, and I tried being nice at first, and then after a while I snapped, and I was about to like blow up, and she had to pull that chain. Like, hey, it's not worth it. And I don't mean it literally, like we're some dogs. But, it's kind of like, in a funny little retrospect you can look at it, is like they're there to keep us, like you said, grounded, going too far, grounded, humbled, whatever you want to view it as. But yeah, I 100% agree, because if you got a hot woman, don't get me wrong, that's cool, but you're gonna get in trouble. You're just gonna get in trouble.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, that's a ride or die. It's true, but like, there's moments.
I think hot woman, and I think it kind of goes both ways. But I think hot woman or having a hot significant other is kind of like too vague, because you could have a woman who her physical appearance might not be what the rest.
I meant hot as in like angry, like hot, like heated.
No, I can't do that. I can't have no woman who's a hothead.
Yeah,
Because
that's something like a hothead.
Because
Yeah.
I'm a hothead. That's like almost like, you know, two hotheads don't work, two alphas don't work.
Mhm.
Like, I couldn't. There's no way. There's no way I can have a hot. Like, I need humble. I need, you know, calm.
Yeah.
You know, because I think having a calm woman makes me more calm.
Yeah, it
Because
does.
my whole life, you know, anybody who knew me when I was younger, if you're watching, you can attest to this. My mom, I know you're probably watching. Can attest. I used to be a fighter. I used to be a hothead. You know, and it caused me a lot of problems. Caused me a lot of relationships, both, you know, just platonic relationships, family relationships, intimate relationships. It cost me that because I was hot-headed and I made decisions. Honestly, made decisions like a female, emotional, through emotions versus through masculinity, where I just kind of like dealt with them and made the right choice. I made the choice with my emotions, you know, and caused me a lot of problems, you know. So, yeah, I definitely agree that as men we need a woman who is, you know, grounded and, you know, she's got her mental together. Because I think that if you had two people who are mentally unstable, that's just, you know, you're bound to crash out.
Yeah, I'm
You
done.
know. So I had another question for you. Speaking of alpha, right? Would you consider yourself to be an alpha male?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I hope you would say yeah, because there's many times when we were bowling, man. Your alphaness came out. We kind of like, you know, with me, you know, Mike, and all the other. We're all alphas bowling together, and like just decisions of who's going first or, you know, whatever. It's kind of like we're all like pumping our chest out. Like, nah, man, like, you know, and then like, you know. So I'm glad you admitted that you're alpha. Now my question for bringing that up is, see, that's one of those squirrel moments that they were talking about. It's fine. It is what it is. So we're just having a good conversation. But my question for you is, do you think that as an alpha male that you can have a positive and thriving relationship with an alpha woman?
As long as there's mutual respect between the two. Because in a way, I would kind of consider my girl to be alpha sometimes because, like, she will make decisions, whereas, like, I basically have no say. But it's I can't really argue with it because it's actually the best decision to go with. You know, so sometimes, whether if you want to feel more dominant over your partner, male or female, sometimes the other partner has a better idea than you, and you just need to swallow that pride for the moment.
But do you think that having an idea makes somebody alpha, or they just had a good idea?
I think it's more of staying stern to the idea versus the idea itself. Because you both can have an idea, but as the alpha, you're like, no, it's this way or my way. You know what I mean?
But in a sense, you're really still doing that, though. You think about it this way, right? So she has an idea. She brought that idea to you out of respect to you, right? She could have just done it. You know?
Okay.
So she brought it to you because she respects you as the alpha and wanted to see if it was your choice to still go along with it. So do you still think she's alpha because of that? I'm just curious. What do you think?
I mean, I guess in a way it's like alpha decisions. You know, I mean,
I really don't believe that two alphas can thrive. I really don't, and we can debate about this. Anybody can come out here and debate about it. I don't, because in theory, women want, when they get in relationships with a man, they kind of want somebody to lead them. You know what I mean? Like, if not, I think that's why they always say it. They kind of say all the time, like, I could do bad all by myself, right? So if you're a man and you have no job, you're not leading them nowhere, you're not doing anything, you're not adding to their lifestyle. That's why they say I could do bad all by myself, right? But naturally, you know, a woman wants to be feminine. You know, she doesn't want to be alpha and masculine. They're just kind of put into that place. You know what I mean? So when a real alpha masculine man comes along, then they kind of like naturally, without you having to do it and pump your chest out of them, just your masculinity and your alphaness kind of brings out their feminine. You know what I mean? So I think that more or less the example you gave, I think more or less that wasn't her being alpha. That was her respecting your alpha and just bringing you an option. And you liked it and you thought that it was good and y'all went with it.
fair enough, I guess. Yeah. I guess that's more the case. I don't know. It's because like I don't believe in trying to be overly dominant in that perspective in a relationship. When it comes to making decisions, obviously, when it comes to me protecting her or anything like that, or handling the bills or going out to eat, then yeah, I'm that's me. I'm doing all that. But when it comes to decision making, such as maybe on how we plan the bills or where we're gonna move out in life or what we're gonna do for the next 5 years, kind of thing, I would want to hear her input because
for sure
it's our life. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
it's gonna affect her too. Yeah, for
But
sure.
yeah, I would say in the retrospect, like I would say I'm more the alpha on that, but she's definitely not afraid to buck up. You know,
Okay.
so, in my relationship.
And I don't think it's bad. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying like that women should have no decision. I'm not saying that at all. I think that because I mean it's their life too. So yeah, they should have make decisions and stuff like that. But I think like just like what you just said, I think that that's correct. Like when it comes to like the big decisions, I think like you need to be as a man. I think that you need to be able to make those big decisions and not just make a decision and be like, oh, we're doing this with no plan. Because again, once a woman wants somebody to lead them. You know what I mean? So if you just say, hey, like we're gonna do X, Y, Z, but with no plan, then of course she's gonna be like, no. You know what I mean? But if you tell her like, hey, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, and then like this is how it's gonna be done, and you can make it make sense to her, I think it'd be easier for her to follow you. So I was just curious. I like to ask those kind of questions, just to kind of get perspective, because I think that's a lost trait in society these days. We have a lot of emotional men.
Fact.
A lot of men who make decisions off of emotions, and that's why I think as us as men, we're now considered to be like no good men. You know what I mean? That's why that's why I think I want to say like. That's why women always say like there's no good men left out there. It's because there's so many emotional men and so many men who's caught up in the wrong thing like social media and partying and getting likes and going viral and all that kind of crap versus being a solidified masculine man. Like I mean, even when it comes to like things like this podcast and like social media, like, I can really care less about the likes and all that. Even though it is free to like, so go ahead and hit that like button if you're still watching. And subscribe, but I don't really care. I don't get caught up in that because there's bigger things in life, like bills and security for a woman. And just here's the thing, when it comes to that, we're not going to go on a long deep tangent about it. But like I said again, I reiterate it. If you have nothing to offer and you have no path to lead somebody on, then how can you expect them to follow you? You know what I mean? As a man, you're supposed to be a leader. You know what I mean? So if you're not going anywhere, how can you get mad at the woman for not following you? You're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't follow somebody either.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're supposed to be the leader, but we're just still standing here. You know what I mean? I'm a leader. I'm an alpha. I'm a masculine person, so I'm gonna take the lead. You know what I mean? So that's just my take on it. So it's always curious to hear other people's perspective because I know society's growing. You know what I mean? So. But I did have another question for you. What's some of your hobbies?
Besides bowling and video games, I write music, I rap, I don't record it. I have friends that'll do that for me.
You rap?
Yeah, I rap.
Let me hear some.
I can't freestyle.
You ain't got that memorized. Come on,
man.
You
memorized?
You never know who's gonna be watching this, man. You might get a record deal. Come on, drop 4 bars real quick.
4 bars? I don't even know. Like that's not. I'll drop a bar. For here. Hold on.
Come on, man.
Let me pull out my notes and I'll.
You can't come on here and say you're a rapper and then they ain't got nothing prepared. Come on. Don't ask me to rap. I can't rap, man. Do you want kids one day? While you're pulling that up, do you want kids?
Yeah, I want 3.
3?
Yeah.
Why so specific?
I don't know. I really don't. But
what do you want? Like, I guess
I want 2 boys and a girl. That's the dream. That's the dream goal. 2 boys and a girl. I don't know. Ever since I was like,
shouldn't have said that out loud, man.
Hey, I mean, if I get all girls, so be it. If I get all boys, so be it. If I get 2 girls,
Allegedly,
1 boy.
I told my mom that I wanted 6 kids. She keeps talking about that. She keeps bringing that up. And for the longest, I had the 2, and then I got my son recently, last year. But she keeps saying that that I said I wanted 6 kids when I was younger. Maybe I did, but I don't remember that. And boy, I was foolish to think that. But go ahead. Let's hear this rap.
So this is a song I'm working on. I'll acapella it. I'm not gonna full on do it. I'll just read out the bars. But this one verse here, it's called "Discovered," and basically it's kind of in the music video. The music video that I'm gonna do for it is gonna make more sense on the story behind it. It's just it's a conversation with myself.
Okay.
So in the beginning, I say, "Am I looking through the eyes of the truth, or am I speaking the words from a mute? Is it you?" As I point myself to myself. Tell me if you understand my hue. The energy I bring can never be withdrew. Trust the process and you'll see it through. At this moment, it's just me and you. Are you ready for this? It's time to see what you can do. Move forward and forget what's been ensued. You'll feel renewed, ready to take on what's new. Discover a new you.
Hey, man. Bars with a message. I like it.
Yeah, I try to. That's kind of like what I try to be when it comes to my music. Don't get me wrong, though. I have like an alter ego side of me that I like to push out when it comes to music per se, because like I like underground music, such as.
How did I know you? I've known you for over a year now, and I never knew you rap.
I never brought it up.
I never knew you rap. That's crazy. And you got bars, man. You're lyrical.
Appreciate
good,
that.
man.
Yeah. I have music out right now. It's on YouTube, Spotify.
Drop that handle so they can go follow you and support you.
7K Dadon, Dadon. I will say most of the music that is out right now, it's 50-50. You could definitely hear from certain songs to other songs of the growth of writing and how to not sound like you're reading when you rap, especially
How long you been doing music?
On and off 4 years.
Okay.
The only reason why I was on and off is because the people I was originally making music with, before moving out here to Washington, I was going through a bunch of stupid stuff with myself. I wasn't making the best decisions, and I kind of had a falling out with the people I made music with off of my acting with emotions. And as of recently, they actually reached out to me, which I was quite shocked because I thought they wanted nothing to do with me because of how I acted, which is fair if they decided that. But they basically reached out to me and was like, hey man, it's been a while, but like we miss you. Like your music's doing numbers, and we want you to be involved in this, and we don't want something that was so petty to blow over what we built. And so now I'm back in it, kind of thing, and I've been really been grinding on writing. So like it's just more so on getting these songs that I'm working on finished and building a mixtape / 2 albums. I want to do a 9 and 9 album. So one album is going to be 9 songs, the next album is going to be 9, and so that's the future.
And these are going to be on YouTube and
YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, all platforms, literally all platforms.
I'm gonna go check you out for sure. 'Cause like I said, I had no earthly idea.
Yeah.
But before we get out of here, man, I like to always ask a fun question. You ready for this?
Yeah.
You sure?
Sure.
All right. So my question this week for you is going to be, do you think that actually going and getting married in front of, like on paper is important? Or do you think that it does, just staying in a long relationship, it doesn't matter about the paperwork?
I feel like it doesn't really matter about the paperwork. I mean, don't get me wrong, being married is definitely an accomplishment for an average human, or I would say every human's life. Like, I mean that as like us as humans and like in general around the world. Like everyone wants to get married. There's a lot of countries that force marriage, so it's like it's kind of like a religious thing too. But in my perspective, like, is it needed? No. But if you want to do it, sure. But to answer your question, I feel like having a relationship last a long period of time is accomplishment enough, whether if it's through marriage or if it's through just solely being together since a certain time.
So, to compound on top of that question, so if you were in a relationship, right, and let's just say your significant other, let's just say you didn't want to really get married. You were perfectly fine being in a committed relationship, doing everything as a married couple, but your significant other wanted to get married, and you didn't. Do you think that's a reason to break up?
No. I'd feel like there should be like an understanding between the two, but I do understand like some women's perspective of wanting the security of feeling locked down.
But you're already locked down. You're committed. Isn't it the same thing?
But in a way, like for some people, including men, they don't really think like that. And my dad is also an advocate of that thinker. Like he, it's if you're not bounded to somebody, because especially like I said, I'm spiritual, I'm not religious. So when it comes to the reason of marriage, it's a very religious thing. So I don't really feel like it should be forced. Just like I don't feel like religion should be forced upon people. You should believe what you believe in. But that's neither here nor there. But my dad, since he's old school in that sense, he really does believe like, oh no, you should be bounded to a person, and that's your one and only, and that's how you prove to that person that you are my one and only. Do I feel like it should end the relationship? No, but if it does, then you know, that's the unfortunate event, I guess, of having that mindset. You know what I mean?
Okay. Well, look, man, I appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate you being
open and sharing your story with the world. Hopefully, somebody can relate to it, and I hope that you keep working on your mental health, because that's a daily thing. I do it. We all need to do it. And I just really appreciate you coming on, man, and supporting the podcast.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me here.
No problem, man. And I hope you guys, like I said, subscribe, like, share this. If you enjoyed this, share it to your stories, share it to your friends, and leave in the comments what you think about it. Y'all be blessed. We out of here.